What if the deadliest weapon ever forged isn't steel, gunpowder, or computer code, but the idea echoing inside your skull at this very second? Imagine a single sentence, so sharp it slices through empires, so precise it turns armies into smoke. Ideas leave no fingerprints, yet they redraw borders, rewrite laws, and bend human hearts with silent force. 280 years ago, a restless French writer, François-Marie Arouet, the man we remember as Voltaire, was thrown into the Bastille for nothing more than a handful of barbed words. No sword, no pistol, no riot, just philosophy sharpened to a point. The jailers locked his body away, but the idea slipped out between the bars and spread like wildfire. Monarchs trembled, church bells rang hollow. To this day, his thought keeps burning. That's the weapon we're handling tonight. Philosophy, the invisible blade that whispers, everything you believe is optional. It can carve a path to freedom, or sever the very ground beneath your feet. Wield it blindly and you might cut your own throat. Master it, and you're suddenly more dangerous than any tyrant with a standing army. In the next 22 minutes, I'm not here to preach a creed. I'm here to show you how a simple idea hijacks your brain chemistry, recruits your tribe, and turns the world into its battlefield. By the end, you'll know how to spot these silent assassins and forge a blade of your own, one that answers only to you. But before we disarm this ticking thought bomb, we have to understand why your brain is hardwired to worship ideas in the first place. Stay with me, because what comes next cuts even deeper. Listen closely. Your mind is not a calm library of reason. It is a frantic detective, forever searching the room for patterns that promise survival. Long before cities, before empires, before a man named François-Marie Arouet sharpened his wit against kings, our ancestors huddled around firelight and asked one desperate question: why? The wolf's howl, the lightning strike, the rustle in tall grass, each was a riddle that demanded an answer. Those who stitched random noises into meaningful stories lived to tell them. Those who couldn't were devoured by the dark. Pattern seeking was no luxury. It was insurance. Over millennia, that insurance became addiction. Every time you decode a mystery, your brain drips a sweet cocktail. Dopamine for the thrill of "I've solved it." Oxytocin when your solution matches the tribe's. Agreement feels like belonging, and belonging feels like safety. Biology rewards you for kneeling before the same altar as everyone else. Now fast forward to tonight's glow of screens. Algorithms don't just know what you watch, they know why you watch, because your brain still craves the comfort of completed puzzles. Scroll, swipe, tap. Each loop is a slot machine that pays out certainty instead of coins. Here's who the villain is. Ding. Here's who to blame. Ding. Here's what makes you righteous. Jackpot. But there's a shadow stitched into that reward. The circuits that kept our ancestors alive now handcuff us to ideology. The same surge that once screamed "saber-tooth ahead" now whispers, "anyone who disagrees is the enemy." Confirmation bias isn't a flaw. It's an overgrown survival instinct, and it turns your mind into a gated fortress long before you notice the drawbridge is up. So remember this: craving meaning is not weakness. It's wiring. Yet wiring can be exploited, and an exploited instinct becomes a leash. And where there's addiction, there's always a dealer ready to peddle the next intellectual high. In the next section, we'll meet the power brokers who traffic in belief and profit from your search for certainty. Picture a torch passed from century to century. Its flame isn't fire but conviction. First it flickers in the hands of ancient priests. Robed and solemn, they whisper that the gods hate questions and love obedience. A single doubt, that's not a thought, it's a sin. With one sermon, they bind villages tighter than any iron chain. Next, the monarch steps forward, crown glittering like a divine halo. He proclaims, "I rule by heaven's mandate," translating raw power into holy inevitability. Behind palace walls, philosophers craft just so stories to sanctify every tax and every hanging. Challenge the story and you challenge God himself, a gamble most men refuse to take. Fast forward. The robes become suits, the throne a glossy screen. Influencers, pundits, corporate strategists, these are today's high priests. They speak algorithmic gospel. Buy this, post that, think like us. Your wallet funds their cathedral, your attention supplies the incense. They don't need swords, they've learned a sharper trick, framing truth as morality. Notice the shift. In a moral frame, disagreement becomes betrayal. If you don't echo the slogan, support the mission, trust the science, love the brand, you aren't merely wrong, you're wicked. That subtle twist turns curiosity into treason. The moment you internalize it, you police yourself harder than any tyrant could. Look at the logos blaring from billboards, phones, and endless meetings. We're a family here. Think different. Do the impossible. Each phrase hijacks a primal need, belonging, uniqueness, heroism, and straps it to a quarterly goal. You start believing that buying the shoe is fighting the battle, that reposting the cause is redemption. Meanwhile, the real architects of these doctrines sip coffee, counting clicks as quietly as ancient scribes tallied tithes. Here's the dark psychology at work. Whoever defines virtue controls behavior. And as François-Marie Arouet warned, the pen of a moralist can be sharper than any guillotine. Yet even the most seductive dealer needs a delivery system, so how do ideas spread like wildfire? That spark we explore next. Imagine an idea as a spore, microscopic, weightless, and indifferent. On its own, it's harmless, but give it a warm host and a gust of wind, and it multiplies faster than any plague. In the 21st century, that gust is your scroll habit, and the hosts are the 8 billion fragile egos staring into blue-lit glass. The algorithmic bell tower. We once feared church bells summoning mobs. Now invisible code does the ringing. Each swipe teaches the machine what excites your primitive brain. Fear, outrage, tribal pride. The algorithm isn't evil. It's worse, it's immoral. It feeds you whatever keeps your thumb twitching, then sells the aftertaste to advertisers who measure your attention in microcents. Memes as self-replicating code. Richard Dawkins coined the term meme in 1976, but TikTok made it a river. A meme is a packet of meaning engineered for minimal resistance. A joke, a slogan, a 5-second clip that bypasses your intellect and detonates in emotion. Once inside, it urges reproduction. Share me, tattoo me, live by me. The meme cares nothing for your well-being. Its only instinct is to survive in the next mind. Outrage, economics. Outrage is the cheapest fuel on earth. It grants moral superiority without the labor of empathy or research. When a headline whispers, "They are stealing your future," dopamine spikes, cortisol surges, and you click, because survival once depended on detecting threats. Corporations learned that every fresh panic earns dividends. Your adrenal glands have become a corporate revenue stream, the weaponization of identity. Once an idea embeds in your self-concept, I'm this political color, I'm that moral tribe, critique feels like assault. The mind closes ranks. You unfollow dissent, build a wall of confirmation, and the algorithm dutifully reinforces it. What began as curiosity ossifies into doctrine, ready for the next demagogue to exploit. The ideas we spread aren't random. They're magnets for the denied parts of ourselves. In the next segment, the shadow contract, we'll descend into the hidden chambers where your unacknowledged impulses sign secret pacts with the very philosophies you swear by. Stay sharp. What we find there may not flatter the person you think you are. Remember that spark we felt a moment ago? The uneasy realization that ideas can infiltrate our minds like viruses? Keep holding that torch, because we're about to descend into a darker chamber, the one Carl Jung called the shadow. Think of the shadow as the storeroom where you lock up everything you hate: fear, or simply refuse to admit lives inside you, jealousy, cruelty, the secret wish to dominate. We don't destroy these impulses, we camouflage them, and philosophy, wielded without self-awareness, supplies the perfect camouflage. When an ideology promises purity, justice, or utopia, it offers us more than moral clarity. It hands our shadow a righteous costume. Wrapped in lofty logic or divine principle, we can lash out with impunity. Crusaders burned heretics while quoting scripture. Modern keyboard warriors cancel strangers while chanting slogans about compassion. Same shadow, new mask. Here's the sinister twist. The more sophisticated the doctrine, the more invisible the aggression. A carefully footnoted argument can hide naked envy. A poetic manifesto can conceal the hunger for control. And because the philosophy feels noble, we congratulate ourselves even as we sabotage relationships, careers, sometimes nations. So ask yourself, whose pain excites me under the banner of justice? Where does my moral certainty taste a little too sweet? Which noble cause would I secretly kill for, if only with words? Interrogating these questions with brutal honesty is the first blow to the shadow's chains. Resist, and you'll keep projecting your darkness onto the world, feeding the very monsters you claim to fight. Before we confront how dogma hardens into a prison, do something courageous. Subscribe. Yes, subscribe, because this channel is a rare space where we dissect the mind's most dangerous weapons without flinching. If you're ready for sharper truths and uglier mirrors, hit that button now. Next, we'll watch those hidden chains tighten until doctrine turns to iron, and discover the weak link you can shatter before it's too late. You felt it before. The uneasy tug in your gut when a cherished belief collides with a stubborn fact. That churn is cognitive dissonance, the mind's built-in alarm. Most people don't silence the alarm by checking the windows. They smash the batteries and pretend the smoke isn't there. Why? Because escaping a burning idea means admitting we've invested years, maybe decades, in the wrong story. Picture a poker player who's already lost his house keys, wedding ring, and dignity, but keeps pushing chips he no longer owns. That's the sunk cost fallacy in action. The longer you cling to a doctrine, the more pain you'd have to face to walk away, so you double down instead. The chain tightens one rationalization at a time. Cults understand this arithmetic of suffering. They start with small asks, sing a song, share a secret, skip a meal. Harmless, almost playful, but each concession sharpens the hook lodged in your identity. By the time the leader demands your bank account and your spouse, the doctrine feels like oxygen. You'll defend it even as it suffocates you. Zoom out and the pattern repeats in boardrooms, comment sections, and dating apps. Ideology masquerades as loyalty, and dissent feels like betrayal. Facts ricochet off armored minds because admitting error would tear a thread in the fabric that keeps egos clothed. Better to chain the messenger than unravel the tapestry. And here's the darkest twist. The moment you suppress doubt to protect a belief, you become its bodyguard. The idea is no longer yours. You are its host. You patrol online, pouncing on heretics, convinced you're safeguarding virtue while the doctrine quietly drains your autonomy. Fortunately, every chain has a weakness. If you know where to strike, listen closely, because every fortress needs more than walls. It needs sentries who never sleep. First, interrogate every thought that marches across your mind. Picture each one as a stranger at your door. Ask the classic Socratic drill down. Who sent you? What proof do you carry? Where are your blind spots? When an idea can't survive your questions, let it perish outside the gate. Second, steel man the enemy. Take the argument you despise and rebuild it stronger than its maker ever dreamed. Only then can you strike its vital organs instead of its straw limbs. This isn't charity, it's tactical respect. Reality rewards the fighter who studies the blade that will be swung against him. Third, train your nervous system before you train your tongue. Outrage is the pickpocket of reason. It snatches the wallet of clarity the instant you look away. So when a headline spikes your pulse, breathe deep through your nose, exhale slower than you inhaled, and imagine the emotion as steam escaping a cracked kettle. 3 breaths buy 3 seconds of lucidity, enough to choose response over reflex. Fourth, practice deliberate solitude. Silence is where echo chambers lose their power. Schedule 1 hour each week without screens, music, or conversation. Just you, a notebook, and the drone of your own thoughts. At first that stillness will itch. Soon it will sharpen you like a whetstone no algorithm can touch. Fifth, audit your feed the way a king audits his treasury. If every post agrees with you, you're already conquered. Curate dissent the way athletes welcome resistance bands. The strain builds tensile strength you can't fake. Finally, remember, defense is half the war. A fortress that never sorties will die behind impeccable walls. In the next part, we'll leave the ramparts and forge a personal ethos, an offensive blade you design, hone, and swing on your own terms. Let's leave the shouting arena of social media and step into a quieter forge, yours. Every day, strangers fling half-finished doctrines at you like rust-flecked daggers. If you don't shape your own blade, you'll end up wielding theirs, and their handle always cuts the hand that grips it. First, list the values you inherited, from parents, teachers, movies, old lovers. Write them without judgment, as if you're cataloging artifacts in a dimly lit museum. Now ask, did I choose this, or did it simply happen to me? If the answer is, I'm not sure, that value already owns a piece of your mind. Second, apply the furnace test. Expose each belief to friction, contradictory evidence, opposing voices, historical failures. If it warps, toss it. If it endures, temper it. File off the absolutism, grind away the sanctimony. What survives is a principle, not a prison. Third, craft a code of 3, just 3 guiding maxims you can recall under stress. More than 3, and you'll fumble when adrenaline spikes. Fewer than 3, and life's complexity will slip through the cracks. Keep them action-based, not abstract. Leave every room clearer than I found it. Pay attention to who profits from my outrage. Silence beats noise when wisdom is thin. Fourth, embed ritual micro-checks into your day. Before you open your phone, before you speak in anger, before you agree with a crowd, pause for 1 breath and run the moment through your code. These pauses are tripwires. They catch manipulative narratives before they detonate. Finally, remember that identity is a draft, never a final edition. Treat your ethos like a living document. Update, annotate, delete. The darkest psychologists exploit static minds. Shapeshifters are harder to cage. You now hold a freshly forged weapon, sharp enough to cut through illusion, light enough to carry everywhere. But what does it look like when a single man swings such a blade against an empire? For that we turn to the restless exile who mocked kings and ignited revolutions. Picture a thin, sharp-eyed Frenchman, born François-Marie Arouet, reborn to history as Voltaire, serving 11 months in the Bastille for the crime of wit. Most prisoners waste away in chains. He smuggled ink beneath his fingernails, turning that cell into a weapons factory. By the time the guards unlocked his door, Voltaire had forged a manuscript that laughed at kings, priests, and anyone who mistook their throne for divine right. He discovered the first rule of intellectual explosives. Ridicule is nitroglycerin. You might survive an argument, perhaps even a sword thrust, but public mockery detonates reputation, and reputations hold empires together. Voltaire's satire ripped the velvet off every throne he targeted, exposing the sweating, fallible human underneath. Monarchs could imprison his body. They could not rebox the idea now humming inside the crowd. If the king can be mocked, perhaps the king can be moved or removed. But François-Marie Arouet wasn't content to throw bombs. He studied the shrapnel pattern. In exile in England, he dissected Locke's empiricism, Newton's mechanics, and Britain's free press culture. He returned to France loaded with a new compound, evidence fused to eloquence, and published it through clandestine presses that passed pages like contraband gunpowder across Europe. Notice the upgrade. First he weaponized laughter, then he armed it with reason. That dual-charged shell still whistles above our heads today. Every time a meme punctures propaganda or a whistleblower leaks proof wrapped in sarcasm, we're hearing echoes of Voltaire's artillery. And here's the darker truth. Voltaire proved you don't need an army to start a war, just a mind that refuses to bow. Philosophy, he showed, is insurrection, coded as conversation. Once spoken, it multiplies in other brains, marching without boots, drilling without drums. So ask yourself, how many of your certainties were planted by someone wielding Voltaire's method against you? How many invisible chains are disguised as clever aphorisms, resting unexamined in your thoughts? But don't holster your mind yet. In the next, and most pivotal, segment, we'll turn this history lesson into a personal arsenal, showing you exactly how to aim your own ideas without becoming their casualty. Keep listening. The fuse is still burning. So here we stand, edge of the abyss, fingers brushing the hilt of the most treacherous weapon a human can wield. An idea. I won't let you leave armed and aimless. Tonight, choose one belief you treat as sacred. Write it down, then interrogate it the way the Inquisition grilled heretics. Who planted it in you? What power does it serve? What part of your shadow finds shelter beneath its halo? Keep the paper in your pocket for the next 24 hours. Every time you feel it pulse, ask, does this belief guide me or chain me? When the day is done, step into the comment section and confess your findings. Name the chain you discovered. You'll be amazed how many strangers have been shackled by the very same links. While you're there, strike the subscribe bell. Think of it as forging a private armory where we sharpen minds, not swords, but don't holster your curiosity yet. In the next episode, we plunge deeper into the tactics of François-Marie Arouet, the man who weaponized wit so explosively that kings trembled at a joke and priests feared a pamphlet. We'll uncover how laughter can detonate empires and why the coming rebellion won't start in the streets, but in the space between your ears. Remember, ideas never die. They crawl into the dark, reload, and wait for a willing hand. Make sure the hand is yours and that your target is worth the shot. I'll see you soon, and I promise the next round will be even more unsettling and far more empowering.